All right, it's sunny and we're driving to Layla's favorite park. And yeah, I am a childless adult who drives a minivan. I'm glad you finally found that out about me. But it's really mostly for Layla. We thought she's getting older. It would be nice for her to have a big car that she can easily get in and out of, sliding doors and everything. And I really don't care about the cargo space that you can fit pretty much as much into as you can on a pickup truck, but without it being exposed to the outside elements. I certainly don't like that I can fit everyone that I know in here, 7 seats. And I don't even care that the back seat is pretty much a couch that I can put big pillows on, just read there in my favorite parks. I love minivans. See what I mean? What was this video about? So this is what my wife and I call the offering tree. And it's not because we offer anything to anyone here, but it's because there's this one guy who, I don't know, on average once a month, maybe every 2 months, puts down like broken eggshells, razor blades, knives, spoons, various kinds of tropical fruit, and dead animals like mice and some kind of birds and things like that. And you can tell all their necks were broken, and it's the strangest thing. Clearly it's part of some ritual, something or other. And obviously we don't do that. For obvious reasons. It's a public park. In fact, right now, I was going to give this example. This is happening right now. There's a school group here because there's the Urban Ecology Center right here in this park. And children come here, the public comes here, animals come here. And children don't need to see that. No one needs to see that by the very fact that it's public property. And it breaks a bunch of health codes and violations and whatever, I'm sure. And where I'm getting at with that is, you report, all you can do is you report people like this to the police. We talked to the police. They said this person is they found out who it is, and this person is getting fines, and the fines are quite high, as much as I know. But he keeps doing it. No matter how high the fines are, apparently, at least so far, he's been coming back every so often and doing those things again and again. And let's be honest, at least at some point in our lives, or many of us, if not most of us currently, can't help but think, how would you like it if someone did that to you? And we start thinking about, knowingly or unknowingly, seriously or not seriously, about, I wonder if there is a way. I wonder if I could do the same thing to this person, not necessarily to punish them or anything like that, but just to show them what they're doing. Because clearly they're not understanding that this is vile, that this is violent, that it's obviously littering at the very least, that it's dangerous for children and everyone around. So we think, how would you like it if I did that in your area or in your garden of your house? How would you like walking past that every day and having to see that? And it's, in a way, understandable and natural to think like this to a certain extent. But it's very, very easy to lose sight and to not understand that you are doing the same thing, but you think you're doing it for totally good reasons. And we lose ourselves. We become literally like our enemy. Because why do we not like that this person does it? Is it just because it offends us personally? We don't like it. It's not our aesthetic. And we just make a value judgment and saying, oh, that's rather ugly. I would rather that wasn't here. Or is it because we think it's dangerous? Because we think it's something violent? We think it's something obscene for children to see. So if we went and did that at that person's neighborhood or in that person's garden or whatever scenario we could come up with to say to equal the playing field or to give them what they deserve, we would also become someone who's doing something obscene, something dangerous, something violent, something harmful, something disgusting, something that we think is unacceptable when someone else does it. Now, if we go and do that for whatever reason, whether to show them a better way, to educate them, to make them realize the true impact of their actions, whatever you think your motivations are, you've become your enemy. You're doing the same thing. And this is why I talk about Rene Girard so much. If you haven't read his work, go to the website acceptingtheuniverse.com, go to reading recommendations, and you'll see some of his work there. I've also made reading recommendation videos. He's in those. He talks about this doubling effect, this enemies becoming twins, enemies becoming mirror images of each other without even realizing it. Enemies or opponents of any kind see so much differentiation between them. They literally think that they are the opposite of their enemy, and that's why they're enemies, because they're opposites. But look at it this way: whenever we look at a situation like that, at two enemies, and we don't even have to imagine like violent enemies to the death or anything like that, even something simple as opponents in sports. Sometimes someone who isn't very interested in sports or in a particular sport, let's say basketball, might be totally forgiven for thinking for not being able to differentiate the two teams. Who's on which side? Who's playing? Where are the teams? I can't tell the difference between them because they're all after a ball. They're all running back and forth. They're all obsessed with each other in a way. They've studied the opponent's game, the opponent's style, the opponent's tactics, the opponent's past. They're trying to figure out their future moves. They're trying to get into their heads. They're trying to understand them. And the more they understand them, the more they adapt to their ways, because that's the way to beat them. First, you have to understand the enemy, the opponent. From the outside, all our little fights, all our quibbles, or all our so-called battles, to people who have nothing to do with them, we look ridiculous. We look like we're obsessed with this person. Seriously, if you ever paid attention to rivals, I mean, this could be anyone in your family, this could be anyone at work, anyone out in politics, anyone out in music, entertainment industry, whatever, celebrities, their little feuds, anything and anyone. If they're in a fight, you'll be able to tell. They're obsessed with each other. They're constantly talking about each other. They're constantly thinking about each other. So supposedly someone that you don't want to see out in the world, someone that we hate, we actually turn around and become obsessed with, and we make them our obsession, our fascination. Essentially, we're fascinated with them in many ways. And so whenever something like this happens, whenever someone does something wrong, objectively, if they're in the wrong, we have to go about it without hate. Because hate is what's driving your enemy of some kind, right? I mean, this person is not my enemy, right? But clearly there's something compulsive that's happening. There's something, they're fearing either not being able to live up to their custom, their ritual, whatever they're doing, or it's become their identity. They're afraid of things, something going wrong in their lives. They hate someone or something, and so this is what's driving them to that behavior. It relieves some of that superficially, maybe. But that's what's driving that person. And if I now get upset by that, get angered by that, and do whatever my plan is to do, motivated by anger, and sustained by anger, and driven by anger, I'm just going to become my enemy. And that simply defeats the purpose. To try to defeat an enemy and to become your enemy in the process defeats the purpose of anyone who's ever picked an enemy. Ever. And this is why we have to stay away from anger. This is why we have to stay away from enemyship. This is why we have to stay away from hate, because it blinds us. We lose awareness. Whenever we're angry, whenever we're hateful, whenever we're resenting something, whenever we're frustrated, we lose awareness. We lose the attention on all the beautiful things that we're trying to do. So if I would now get angry with this person because they're leaving razor blades and knives and dead animals around for children to see and potentially come in contact with, and I get frustrated and I get furious and I pick this person as my enemy and I go around hating this person, thinking about this person in the name of protecting the children and saving the children, that beautiful thing that I'm trying to protect, I'm ruining. Because what kind of a role model am I being to children, to anyone who sees me do that? Even though I'm doing it in the name of protecting children, how am I protecting them when I'm showing them hate, when I'm showing them anger and frustration and resentment towards this other person? What did they get from that? They say, this person is doing something wrong, the person who's leaving the animals and the knives. See, it's becoming harder to tell who I'm talking about. And this so-called good person who's trying to help us, who's trying to keep the park clean and safe, is angry. He's shouting, he's demanding, he's hateful, he's calling for punishments and all these kinds of things, and he's just going about it with anger in his heart. I guess that's how you deal with problems. That's how you deal with bad people, wrong people. And it defeats the whole purpose. What beauty am I protecting at this point? I am the one who's ruining that beauty at this point, along with my fellow other resentful, frustrated person who doesn't care about anyone's safety or well-being or health. I've become the same. I've become my enemy. This is why I always say, everything that you can do with anger, you can do without anger. Everything that you can do with resentment, you can do without resentment. Everything that you can do via picking an enemy, you can do without picking any enemies. In fact, you can do all of those things better. And not only better, if you don't do it without anger and without hatred and without resentment, you defeat the purpose. It's a non-starter. It's a deal breaker. And this is why it's so important. I always quote Simone Weil, who says, love is not a feeling or an emotion or anything like that. Love is a direction. Love is a direction, and we need to maintain that course. We cannot turn around for anyone or anything. Because if we do, now we're going in the wrong direction. Going in the wrong direction is never progress. It's never a good thing. It's never a necessary thing. But that's exactly what we think anger is. We think it's necessary. We think it's natural. We think it's normal. It's not. As Seneca says, anger is temporary madness. It's insanity. Lucky for us, it's temporary. Lucky for us, we can come out of it. Lucky for us, it's just an emotion that has a certain limit to it. But we can keep putting ourselves there. So that's why in those non-anger moments, in those clear moments where we do truly think of the children, when we do truly think about everything that's beautiful in this world, that's when we need to build the resolve to not give in to that, to see that these objectively wrong things in the world are happening, but to not be offended by that, to not believe in evil, but instead to believe in people being misguided. This person is not thinking of the razor blades and the knives and the dead animals in connection to the children that might walk by them. He's ignorant. I know it's a he because I saw him doing it the first time. He's just ignorant, and he's misguided because he thinks this is a good thing, this is a good ritual, this is something that will bring him prosperity or health or wealth or whatever he thinks he believes that it's going to do. So he's misguided. He's not saying, oh yeah, it's going to be great when I put all these razor blades and dead animals in front of children. That's going to be a hoot. That's going to be fun to watch or fun to know that it's happening. No one thinks like that. If they do, they have some mental issues that might be born with a certain divergency. And so then again, they're not evil. Then again, they're in a way misguided, or they're just, born in a way where they're not capable of understanding these things, still ignorant in some way. That's why I don't believe in evil. I can't find it in the world. I can't find it. Every time I see something like this, it's very clear to me this person is just, they're misguided. They don't know what they're doing. It's like Jesus says, forgive them for they do not know what they're doing. I can't find it. Every time I think I see something evil happening in the world, I look into it and I see it's a bunch of otherwise good people doing bad things, doing wrong things. And that doesn't change anything about that. It doesn't change anything about how wrong it is, how bad it is. And it doesn't change their responsibility. It doesn't change their accountability. It doesn't change the consequences one bit. But for me, when I cannot find evil in someone else, I can also not find hate within me. And so whenever I see something wrong happening in the world, I can't get angry about it. How can you get angry with someone who's misguided? If anything, you'd pity them. You pity them. Look what you spend your life doing, what you spend your time doing, what you think is good, but it's truly, in reality, it's bad. You think you're doing the right thing, but in reality, you're doing the bad thing. You're doing the wrong thing. That, if anything, that's worthy of pity, not anger. And pity is not a great thing either. We need to get rid of pitying other people for any reason as well. But it certainly is better than anger and hate. And again, this is how people become their enemies. And this is why Marcus Aurelius, who lent us the title for this video, because he's one of our best friends, he'd do that for us. That's why he said, the best revenge is to not be like your enemy. You want to get back to your minivan, don't you? Yeah? Yeah? You do? Okay. Okay, let's go.